Hello one and all, and welcome to Behind the Glass, your weekly automotive podcast hosted by two rather uninformed enthusiasts.
No.
I'm Sam from the YouTube channel Seen Through Glass.
I'm Tony from Gravelwood Car Sales.
And you can watch us each week. We hope you enjoy the episode. I have decided I want to become a vintage Grand Prix racing driver.
Well, I've decided I want a Bugatti Chiron, but I don't think I'm going to have it.
Do you really want a Bugatti Chiron?
No. It's the first thing that popped into my head.
Usually people say golden toilets, don't they? Oh, I want a golden toilet, but you can't have everything. Doesn't surprise me at all. I have just come back from the historic Grand Prix de Monaco. I think that's not the official. I feel like the official title is something more elegant than that. But essentially the historic Grand Prix of Monaco. And I'm obsessed. Mate.
But you love Monaco, don't you?
I mean, I love Monaco. That's truth.
You're like in your element there, aren't you?
And I like, old school, like a bit of 60s glam. I like F1. I mean, it was ticking a lot of boxes, but...
Where'd you watch it from?
The Tag Heuer Hospitality, opposite the pit lanes, sort of in between the swimming pool section and Raskas.
Not on the boat?
Not on a boat. No, they weren't. I don't think there was as much boat hospitality for the historic Grand Prix of Monaco as there is for the Grand Prix of Monaco.
Right.
And less people in general. A lot of the stands were fairly empty, but this was a nice, hospitality area. Good view. But mate, it is a wild event because, so I think...
I've not been.
Mate, I hadn't been. This was my first time as well.
Oh, okay.
My first time going. As far as I know, it's cars from the 1930s through to the 1980s.
Oh, right up your street.
Might be there, might be like 1938 to 1988. Like that, there'll be some variance in it, but something like 30s to 80s. And predominantly F1 cars, or at least Grand Prix cars, and then a few sports cars as well. So 250, actually, was there a 250 short wheels? No, there were things like Aston Martin DB3S, Maserati 250S. I always get confused with those. Anyway, some cars that you'd recognise from like auctions and things like that.
Okay.
But I was there for the F1 cars, mate.
Was you?
Oh my God, yes I was, because...
Period of F1 cars?
Dude. So I call them the bathtub cars, so like the 50s cars, Jim Clark, Graham Hill, literally bathtubs with wheels attached.
I call them the death traps.
There you go, that's about right.
Yep.
Seeing those flat out around the streets of Monaco, insane.
Yeah.
And they sounded so good.
I still got, so they're like literally like bathtubs with wheels and a V8 bolted on the back of them.
And a giant fuel tank in between the driver's legs.
Yeah.
It's a bomb.
Yes, literally a driving bomb. And when I really realised that, because I never really took too much notice of old F1 cars. When I really noticed it? Last year when we went to the Michael Schumacher Museum. That
was in...
Munich.
Cologne.
Oh, was it the Cologne?
Motor World Cologne.
Yeah. And we started walking round and you said, oh, this is this and that. And I could not believe that they'd even sat in them. Mate, they're like full on like death traps.
And to think those are from the 90s, I'm talking about cars from the 50s.
Yeah.
It's insane. We were watching one category which was, earlier, let's say 40s or cars that maybe, even Fangio or Enzo Ferrari would have driven, like really early cars. And the drivers were obviously leaning quite heavily into the corners. And I was with a load of French influencers who didn't really know much about early Grand Prix racing. And they said, why are they leaning? I said, because if they don't lean into the corner, they would be thrown out of the car.
Like an old motorbike, like a tricycle thing.
Yeah, there's nothing holding them in. I mean, there's this,
yeah.
Mate, it was visceral. And I think for newer viewers of F1 or motorsport who maybe haven't been lucky enough to experience proper Formula One, proper sounding Formula One engines, the only way that I can explain it being different, apart from what you've seen on TV and YouTube, is you physically feel the sound.
It vibrates through your body.
Mate, it just takes over your body. And there was a great photographer came over from Hodinkee, which is a big watch, a publication in America, and come over and walked up to the stands together, and the first few cars came past, and genuinely his hair on his arms was standing, on end. There you go. And I was like, but it is.
Yeah, it's properly cool.
It carries through your entire body, and you can't help, like, no matter what your expectations or interests are, those first few cars that come past, you just go, holy hell. I had the biggest smile on my face, just being like, this is mad. They are, screw loose, those people.
Yeah. Well, racing drivers, they're not wired up properly anyway.
No.
Like, for, proper
Weirdos.
pros. Yeah. And but I always use the extreme of rally drivers and them nutcases that do that Isle of Man TT.
Yeah.
They're like the extreme of like not wired. But even like current F1 drivers, they're not wired up properly, mate. They're not correct.
They see life differently.
200 mile an hour.
Yeah. I mean, like, Marino Franchitti was taking part in various different categories over the weekend. I mean, he's a nutter, full stop. But to see him pushing on in these cars, it doesn't just make you realize how insane these people are. It's the skill.
Yeah.
Because I was watching him coming through, as I say, swimming pool section. That's where the stand was. So I saw them coming through the first section really fast. So they would appear, into my view, coming from left to right, as they flew out. And the cars were always moving.
Through the tunnel.
No, so I'm further down. So,
Fair.
the two fast chicanes.
Yeah.
So past to back, which is the left, and then you got the two. So that's all I could see. I just saw the exit of swimming pool 1.
Yeah.
So they came flying, appeared from left to right. Cars are moving everywhere. They hunker hard on the brakes. Cars squirreling down. Manual shifts.
Yeah.
Into the right. Over the left, over the big bump, the whole car gets unsettled again. They're basically doing a power slide towards the barrier, boom, off to Rascasse.
Yeah.
And I was just watching this, and because you have such an amazing view into the cockpit of these cars, it's not like modern day Formula 1 where they're all enclosed, big old steering wheels, open cockpits. You can just see them working away at the steering wheel and then shifting, like manually going for the gear lever. And I'm going, oh my God, they want to die.
Yeah.
Like, they actually want to die. Like, I hope Marino wished goodbye to his kids, because how does anyone survive this?
But the problem with that as well, that's probably how you have to drive them cars as well, because that's the only way they perform, like literally on the edge. And when you appreciate how good them drivers are, the proper drivers, F1, when you start driving the tracks that they've been on, like when you drive around Monaco, even not on a non-track, or you go to Silverstone, or you go to these tracks, and you think, bloody hell, an F1 car, you think you're going fast, and F1 car's like double the speed. I mean, it's not funny, mate.
What was really interesting as well, which I don't know if this is a period thing or just because of the variety of level of driver taking part in these events, is how many different lines you could take in these older cars. These days, when you watch Formula 1, or at least top categories, everyone is pretty much doing the same line. There's not much variety.
I disagree with that.
Do you think?
I do, yeah. If you watch Max, Lewis, Alonso
over a qualifying lap?
Probably race. They all do things slightly different. When you watch them, and even on a qualifying, there'll be little differences where some of them will be harder on the nose, they carry a bit more speed in, or some of them will be a bit slower so they can get out. They all do things slightly different.
Absolutely, but do you not think from just visually watching, they look much more similar? They look fairly similar. You have to pick up on the minute detail. I agree in the race.
Yeah.
In the race, they're trying different things, especially if they're actually racing. You can easily see the difference in line. But usually over a quali lap, you haven't really looked for where the differences are.
Of course, yeah. And I'll tell you a really good example is Leclerc.
Okay.
Because he's, especially in qualifying, I think he's probably one of the best at qualifying, as in one lap, no fuel, proper tyres. I think he is probably the best as a one lap. If you see how he does it, and then you watch someone like Max and Lewis, it's different. Mate.
It is different.
Yeah.
It is different. I think all I'd say is that externally, because the cars are so much smaller,
fair.
and you can visually see the input so much clearer, it looked like there was a lot more variation in how people were getting fast times. That's all I noticed. I think, the modern cars, when you're riding on board, sure, you can start to pick up on differences, but from the outside shot, they look far more similar than these cars did,
enough.
at least.
But they're probably more sympathetic as well, by the way, because they've got so much downforce. They've got proper brakes, they've got proper suspension, proper,
Everything.
proper, like literally the cutting edge of everything. And they didn't have that information 30 and 40 years ago. That's what they had.
Yeah, at the time that would have been cutting edge. That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
But speaking of old Charlie Leclerc, he popped down to the pit lane to have a little look around. Yeah.
Say hello.
Actually, it was quite a cool moment because you're sort of standing around and I suddenly saw this kind of these crowds just flocking and swarming in one direction. And then I noticed there he was, old Leclerc, popping down to have a look, walking side by side with old Joe Macari.
Was he?
Yeah. Old Joe was giving him a little bit of a tour. So, yeah, that was very cool. Interestingly, when Lando came down, I thought firstly it was really cool that current F1 drivers were coming to have a little snoop around. Lando came back twice. I don't know if Charles came back on the Sunday, but Lando was there on the Saturday and the Sunday. Zach Brown obviously racing in one of the categories, so I think he was coming to show a bit of support. But also, I guess, just interested in having a look around. And I really like that because, that's cool. You're currently driving F1, you're just going to come have a look around the paddock for all the vintage cars.
They're probably intrigued, mate. I bet
That's
probably
what I mean.
think, flipping, I wish I could have a go.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Bruno Senna was there driving one of Senna's McLarens as a part of a demonstration. And I'm sure they all go, I want to have a go in that.
I want to go in that, yeah.
But the difference, Leclerc, I underestimated his star power in Monaco. Mate, people lost their minds.
Well, that's where he's from.
Yeah, but it was a real hometown hero vibe. I know how insanely popular Lando Norris is online.
Yeah.
And if you ever go on social media, you'd easily believe that Lando was arguably the most popular driver in the field, amongst a younger generation.
Yeah.
But Leclerc, it was full on celeb levels of fandom. Right. As I say, like people just literally tripping over themselves, running from one end of the pit lane to the others, people shouting from the grandstand, everyone applauded, everything like that. Lando, very subdued.
Okay.
A few people asking for photos, but nowhere near the insanity that Leclerc caused.
But that would probably switch on its head if Lando was in London and Leclerc was here.
I'm sure there was some hometown hero vibes, and I asked some people there saying it's quite wild, and they said, yeah, he is a bit of a hero here. He is really sort of worshipped. Absolutely. But I do think there is an element of star appeal there. I think it's interesting to note because for me, when I go to F1 races and I'm lucky enough to be in the paddock, still to this day, all the attention follows Lewis Hamilton.
Absolutely.
Still to this day, all the media, all the cameras, all the people, you always know if Lewis is around because everyone is outside the Mercedes hospitality.
Yeah. That's all I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that's very true. And I've always thought, well, what happens when he disappears?
Lando.
Where do those crowds go? Well, I assumed Lando until what I just saw. And actually, if you go to the races at the moment, Charles does really lead the way.
Yeah.
Even over and above Lando. Lando, yes, does have this massive online following, but in person, Charles seems to create a bit more physical hype, I think, than some of the other drivers.
That's Ferrari? Do you think that's because he's a driver for Ferrari? And actually, again, it could also be another coup why they've managed to get Lewis to Ferrari as a bit of a marketing thing, and that will elevate Charles even more. So there might be a bit of that to play for.
And don't forget, Charles is a man of the world. Speaks many languages. He's got international. So Europeans will lean towards him more anyway. So anyway, just interesting to see. But really, really cool event. I'm sorry that you couldn't be there. Once every 2 years. So hopefully in the future, if you get yourself a Tag Heuer, you can come along.
Well, just get me one.
No,
you can buy me one of me as a present. You've got some money
don't
now.
Be stupid. You buy me one. I'll give you all this exposure on the podcast each week. What have you been up to, mate? What's been going on?
I've been working. I've been absolutely flat out, actually.
That's good.
Yeah. I've been like flat out. I'm short staffed actually, but that's mainly why. But
so no chance to have any fun.
No. What did I do? I went to the seaside on Sunday with my family.
That's nice.
Yeah. But I just work all the time, mate. I literally just work all the time. Don't feel sorry for me.
I do. Well, then, should we move on to another story I have, which was my experience at the launch of the Aston Martin Vantage?
Oh, yeah, we spoke about this as well.
We did. We spoke about it briefly.
Briefly,
I kept some of the cards close to my chest because I thought we could get into it, deep dive it here on the podcast.
Yeah.
I do have a main channel video going live on Sunday, so
we're not going to talk about it at all.
Well, no, I really want to talk about it. So all I'm saying is please go and still watch the If you feel like you kind of got the gist of things by our chat here, still go and watch the main channel video because I kind of need the views. So. Don't leave me hanging.
You're a bit down at the moment, are you?
Well, I am a bit down in general, but that's fine. It's more that I'm going after the embargo, so I'm like that video is destined to die
before you even put it out.
Yeah, if I waited like 3 months, happy days. But I'm going 5 days after the embargo, which is like. Kill me now.
When everything's watched out.
Yeah. Everyone's watched all the videos now because everyone else has put their content out. So people who were interested have watched the Vantage video. So then they see mine go. They go, oh, I'll wait. I'll watch that at some point. I'm in no rush.
So it'd be like a slow grower.
I hope so.
Yeah.
You never know. Might surprise.
I think it will, mate.
But let's get into it because I flew off to Seville in Spain to drive the new Aston Martin Vantage. And I said in the video, new, it feels punchy when you look at the photos, right? If I said to you, all new Aston Martin Vantage, do you think it feels all new?
From the outside, it looks like a facelift. From the inside, it did look new.
Interior is definitely all new.
Yeah.
It's got that new infotainment system, which, okay, let's get into this first. I'm just going to rattle things off as they come into my brain. So do not get me wrong here. That new interior design, bang on the money.
Good.
Oh, mate, I love it. It feels luxurious. Lots of leather everywhere. Beautifully designed. Things in the right places. Buttons, who knew? Knobs, who knew? Switches, lovely. Like, all just there. Easy to figure out. However, the all-new infotainment system built by Aston Martin, which I first experienced in the DB12, quite laggy.
Bit slow.
And the thing is, I would give Aston a break for this because they mentioned they're doing over-the-air updates and they've got some new updates already planned. And these, I don't know if these are custom. I don't know what the cars were, so I'm not going to like hold them to that particular car. But the reason why I'm having a bit of a go is because the DB12 on our tour.
Yeah.
Exact same thing. You would get in the car, power it up, engine was on, and the screens would still be very slowly firing into life.
Yeah.
It all just takes a bit of time to...
And I sort of understand what you mean, as in perhaps give them the benefit of the doubt to make it better. But actually, on the other foot, let's not give them the benefit of the doubt because it's a $200,000 car.
Yeah, and the fact that we've seen a customer-delivered car with that system, with that, and it was the same thing.
Yeah.
That's, if I hadn't have had that experience on the tour of getting in that DB12 and having I wouldn't be mentioning it probably. But yeah, just a bit laggy. And even when you're siphoning through driving modes, it all takes a little bit of a while. And some things are not as genius as they felt in the DB12. You know, your which gear you're in is not that obvious. Which driving mode you're in is not that obvious. They've got this variable traction control, which I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Like
wasn't always that obvious. Like the Merc.
Right.
You know, like, so whilst it's such a nice place to sit, I feel like that could get you with time.
Yeah, okay.
You know, the screens and the resolution's not like right there in your face every now and again. I was having to kind of wince to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
But we headed off to the Monte Blanco circuit, which is outside Seville, about 45 minutes out of Seville, and that was going to be our base for the day. And we were explained quite a unique scenario, I think, for a press drive. There were going to be two groups. One would do the road first, then do the track. The other one would do track first, then on the road. Now, usually when you do these press drives, the track driving experience is arguably 6 to 8 laps. You probably do 2, maximum 3 sessions. The first is usually with a guide or an instructor. Sometimes they're all with a guide and instructor. Actually, they're pretty much all... to be fair, anyway, boring.
Yeah.
And it's out lap, couple of hot laps, back in. For the Vantage launch, they did 3 15-minute sessions. The first one, you got an additional 5 minutes behind Darren Turner in the legit F1 safety car. So essentially, it was 3 15-minute open pit lane sessions.
It's not long enough.
Mate, are you mad?
What?
It was I just said to you, most press launches are 6 to 8 laps in total with an instructor.
Okay.
In the car, or you have to follow a car the whole time. Are you getting that static?
Yeah.
It's just cable interference. I'll buy some new cables.
Don't kick anything.
So usually 6 to 8 laps behind an instructor or with an instructor in your car. This was 3 open pit lane 15-minute sessions.
Oh, I'd love that.
Mate, I've genuinely never experienced that. And I asked every single person on the trip, I was like, have you ever done anything like this before? Everyone's like, nope, never.
Well, did you enjoy yourself?
Mate, there's so much to get into, but I just want to the most important thing here is the faith that Aston Martin have in that car to literally hands off say, there you go trash the car.
Oh, fair.
Basically for 45 minutes, okay, fine, in 50-minute chunks, go fill your boots, drive as hard as you like, as fast as you like, do as many laps as you like within those windows. All good. We trust you. Like, the car's good enough. Keep going.
Yeah, fair.
Ferrari literally bring you in after 2 laps. And you always have an instructor in front of you.
Yeah.
Like a pace car.
Yeah.
So that I was like, okay, we're starting off the day in the right way. Like if they're this confident with the car, on track, mate. It's an Aston Martin. On track, they just think, okay, cool, off you go and have a blast. Like that was pretty wild. But I did road driving first.
Okay.
I was in the group that did the road driving first.
You prefer that, didn't you?
I'd prefer that.
Yeah.
I was like, this is, okay, fine. I guess we're going to find out whether it's capable on track, but are you really buying a Vantage to go flat around a circuit?
Probably not. But what it does, more than anything, it demonstrates how good the car is. Reliability, what it's like when it gets hot. You don't experience any of that on the road. You think you're going fast on the road, but really the real time that you get to really know the capability of the car is on track.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Didn't realize I was going to say that, did you?
No, I did. I did think you said that, but I think there's a lot that I want to answer to that because everything you just mentioned is correct.
Of course.
So, but I don't want to get there. I want to go back to the road.
You want to paint a picture, didn't you?
I'm trying to.
I know you are. You love it, don't you?
So, immediate thing to notice, quite a firm ride. Surprisingly firm ride.
Okay. I can interject
Please.
in terms of how firm it could be. Is it like Mercedes firm?
I just think it was not uncomfortable or brittle. This is in the standard startup mode, which is sport. So you start up the car, you're in sport. Spanish roads are pretty smooth.
They're billiard.
But you just have a sense of a real feel to what's going on. It is just firm. I think in the UK, it might be a tad rattly.
And crashy, you mean?
Crashy, there you go. Your favourite word.
And is there not a comfort mode?
Nope.
Oh.
No. Sport, individual or wet, or you go sport plus track. No comfort. That's reserved for the DB12 and the GT car.
Right.
This is a sports car.
Oh, so sport is the comfort mode.
The softest setting.
Oh, wow.
So I think Sport Plus in the UK 100% will be too firm.
Wow.
It just feels tight. And initially I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But as the day went on, I was like,
It's annoying.
Well, it could be. It could be. Depends what mindset you've got for the car. But, it's a little...
GT car, right?
It is still. But though, according to Aston Martin, it's a sports car.
Right.
This is the whole point. If you want a GT car, go get the DB12. This is a sports car.
Right.
So,
okay.
Similarly to the DB12, it is kind of set up or geared to be a little aggressive. Like if you push down with your right foot, the gearbox goes. Like
is it a double clutch or 8-speed
ZF
box? So it'd be an 8-speed.
It's a great question, actually. It is an 8-speed. I'm sure
it should be a ZF.
Yeah, it's a ZF.
Yeah.
But I think just because of the nature of the engine, now it's been so reworked, so much power, it is still quite laggy. So the car is set up to give you low gears. Kind of, that's where it leans towards. It wants to serve you up gears. So the minute you go for anything, a bit like a GT4RS, you're downshifting really quickly. If you leave it all in auto, the car's just and off you go. If you're in the manual gears, you're wanting to shift down because until you get to like
my M3's like that though, mate. I think all modern cars with lots of gears are like that.
Yeah.
The Mercedes, they're all the same now. They just literally keep changing gear.
Keep changing gear all the while.
Yeah.
So those are the first few things that I noticed. The sound is pretty good, to be fair. Inside and out, the sound is pretty good.
Outside as well?
Yeah, outside as well. They've worked quite hard on that to make sure that it's kept some noise. Even when they're going around track, I was quite impressed. Cars that came past and things like that. Does sound good. Teeny bit. Was it synthetic or enhanced? I don't think it's enhanced in the cabin. It's not the greatest sounding V8 ever. It's definitely there. The noise is there, but it's not like the old school Vantage 8. It's not a raw, naturally aspirated V8. It's got a slight sort of,
It's turbocharged though, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not got quite the character.
Is it their V8 on Mercedes still?
Well, it is the AMG unit, but you would barely recognise it. They have reworked almost every component. I mean, because they re-signed a deal basically, which allows them to kind of basically rip it apart and start all over again.
Right. Okay.
Hence why they could get all the power. So it is very, very different. But yeah, initial impressions were good. Like I was like, okay, this feels good. And I ended up getting into a nice twisty section, dialing up to Sport Plus and cracking on. And I think I was definitely impressed by how fast I was able to go and how hard I was able to drive it. But I did feel like the car was moving around quite a lot. It just didn't feel ever that settled.
Planted.
It didn't feel planted. Now, obviously, it's front engine rear wheel drive with a lot of power going to the rear wheels. Twiggy, you're stepping on the cables. You want to come over here? Come on. You're interrupting the broadcast.
The broadcast. The podcast.
The podcast.
The broadcast.
So, I was like, this is really good and definitely harder and faster than I've driven any Vantage or Aston that I can remember. But, I just was a bit like...
bit wallowy.
Teeny bit. Like only very small. I remember saying in the video, like, I'm having a great time and I'm driving really hard, but I just feel like I'm giving the car a hard time. Like, I feel like I'm really giving the car a thrashing. Like, I'm going to get out and it's, all the fans are going to be on and the brakes are going to be like red hot.
But Aston Martin were clearly all right with that.
Well, but that's what I mean. That's the impression that I was getting. Behind the wheel, I was like, should I be driving the car like this?
Should I be a bit more sympathetic?
Yeah. Like, the car was doing great, but you've really got to pay attention when you start driving. It's not like a Turbo S where everything's just like locked down, off you go.
Yeah.
This thing felt like you got to kind of half pay attention to how you're driving this thing because it could suddenly all go quite wrong.
Yeah.
And everything was on. I was in Sport Plus, everything, all the systems on, everything fine.
Rear drive or
rear wheel drive?
Still rear wheel drive.
Yeah, it's one of the last front engine rear wheel drive, front mid engine rear wheel drive. But yeah, like, so I remember getting back to the track being like, okay, like, good. I'm definitely not sitting here going like, oh my God, I need one of these cars. It's the greatest thing ever. There was like a final 10% missing to go like, it's a really good car to, oh my God, I love this car. And I said it to Aston. I remember saying like, it's way better clearly and it's really good, but I'm just not quite there yet with, when I drove DB12, I loved that car. Remember I said to you like, it's unbelievable. This is a proper, Roma rival. It's a really good bit of kit. The Vantage, I was like,
But maybe they've left some room for improvement, mate. Maybe there'll be an S or something else coming out where maybe they can, fettle them.
I'm sure.
Imperfections.
Potentially. Anyway, I then went out onto track. The thing which I realised, firstly, I shouldn't be sympathetic to the car. Mate, we all thrash those things. For our full 15-minute sessions, 3 50-minute sessions, everyone went flat out.
Steel brakes?
Ceramics.
Oh, okay.
And I honestly think...
Come with ceramics?
No, optional extra.
Right.
Road car had steels, track car had ceramics.
Yeah.
All cars on the test had ceramics,
Okay.
because of durability of the test.
Of course.
The pedal feel was great. Really strong pedal
time?
feel. And all the time, mate. I hammered on. I got on that track thinking, right, I'm going to drive this like my GT3 and see what happens. And I hammered on. Really good brakes. They were a tiny bit grabby on the road, tiny bit grabby out on the road, but on track, just kept going. No fade, rock solid, loads of confidence, loads of feel. So that was great. The car initially was giving me quite a lot of understeer. So I had to really scrub off the speed to get the turn in and then power out. I was like, okay, I'm just having to learn that slow in, fast out type car. But it was proven to be pretty dynamic and good. Like initial first session, I was like, yeah, this is good. So then obviously I came in, had a chat with the guys, and they said, look, a few things to be aware of. In track mode, we've lengthened the map for the throttle pedal so that it's less initially responsive. In Sport and Sport Plus, the throttle is super responsive. But in track, it's a bit elongated so that you can play with the power essentially and use that to kind of, rotate the car and things like that. On top of that, use the gearing. Don't always want to go down to the super low gears. Actually ride the torque wave.
Yeah, of course.
And that will help you through a lot of the corners to be a bit smoother.
Which actually, they say you should drive a turbocharged car, by the way, in the torque, not in the revs.
And then finally, activate that traction control, which has, I think, 8 settings. they were all saying
Turn it off.
5 is the best. 5 is great.
Well, I think that's a trust issue.
Honestly, turn it all off.
Yeah, turn it off.
I kept slowly working their way up because they all kept saying I was quite leery and blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to build up to it. You know, I didn't want to freaking get in the car and straight away just die. Even at 8, it's interfering.
Still holding you back.
Yeah, still holding you back. Once you turn everything off, it is a ton of fun. It is a lot of fun, that car. But just that, fun. It is a bit of a rear wheel drive, drifting kind of silly bit of kit.
But isn't that's what a sports car's supposed to be, right? Just a bit of fun.
Absolutely.
Right.
My question, or where I've left myself, is, okay, fine. You can go onto track, turn everything off, slip around. The car theoretically is going to take the abuse. You can go and have a really fun day. Most track days will kick you out for doing loads of drifts, but anyway.
Yeah.
You're not going to keep up with your competitors. I haven't driven quite enough of them, but let's take a Turbo S for an example or whatever. You're not going to keep up with the really fast track boys, but you can have a big smile on your face if you go somewhere where you're allowed
not
to turn
faster than a Turbo S?
No.
Okay.
No. Different feeling and not faster, I don't think.
Okay,
because you have to drive around the car.
Yeah, okay, fine.
You have to drive around the car and you have to pay attention. The Turbo S does a lot of it for you, which I would say.
Well, yeah, a Turbo S, if you want to drive a car fast and not have really a huge amount of talent, that's the car to have because it literally looks after you.
The Vantage, you definitely have to drive. You have to think about what you're doing, know what you're doing. If you carry too much speed in, even with everything off, you're still going to understeer.
Yeah.
Then you've got to be able to get back on the power and get that rear end around and stuff. So you've got to kind of half know what's going on. But on the road, you obviously, I mean, you can turn everything off.
Why?
But this is what I mean. Like,
yeah.
I think on the road, it therefore then actually doesn't show up its true abilities. Like and therefore when I was on the road, I thought, yeah, this is really good, but would I rather be in X, Y, and Z? I think maybe I would. I don't know. It left me a little bit like, it's definitely better. I think the gearbox is a little bit unengaging. It's a little bit...
Yeah, even when you turn it all up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gearbox never really comes to life.
Fine.
Say like you've got to be aware of the lag a bit and the fact that the car just does move around a bit. Like,
it's got a bit of roll.
It's got a bit of roll, hops and skips a little bit. That ride is quite firm. So if you're pushing on a back road and you hit some bumps, like the car's going to squat and move around. And so it's a car that needs to be driven, and that is in its own right good and fun. And I don't want to knock Aston Martin for that, but it depends what kind of driving you want to do. And don't forget, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I was driving similar roads into my GT3. And so I couldn't help but make that comparison. And I know the Vantage is not a GT3 rival, but I couldn't help but make a bit of a...
Yeah. But the thing is as well, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I never turn traction control off in the road, by the way. Ever.
No.
I don't turn it off on the road. I just always leave it on.
Yeah.
And secondly, and we've said this before, I go back to it, that in a modern car, because they try and make it for everyone and they make it 3 or 4 cars in one, unless you turn it all up and all off, you never really get the enjoyment anymore. And then at that point, you're going way too fast to the road anyway. So, it's a bit of a 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. And I can think of a lot less powerful modern cars that do that with a lot less power. So you've got to be going really fast. It was always McLaren's problem.
When we had our really fast to get there.
Really got, and then you're going way too fast for the road.
And it's so quick, this new Vantage.
I bet it's
so quick. And the thing is, like, I knew on the day I spoke to a lot of people, and I knew that people were really enjoying themselves, and that I would be maybe of the few of this mentality. And I've read a few of the reviews and seen it, and I think people do in general love the car. And as I say, it's hard to point the point across because it is definitely a way better Vantage, and it is a really good car, and they have kind of hit the brief of like making a car that's fun to drive. I just think I personally didn't adore it. I didn't connect with it massively. My best experience in it was driving at 7/10 in sport with the manual gearbox, with the exhaust on, and kind of riding high in the gears and not pushing that hard. On the road.
But I think that's you in a nutshell, mate. I think that's what you like. I think you get that enjoyment in your GT3 because you're a good driver, and I've never seen you drive really flat on the road. And I think that's what you do on the road. You drive at 7 or 8 tenths on the road, or 70 or 80% or whatever. And that's you. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, fair. But at that point, I personally would rather have been in the DB12. I know the price points are different. I know the characteristics are different. But I think the Vantage really did come to life as a bit of fun on the track. And obviously that's why they gave us so much track time. And that's what they wanted to showcase. And that is brilliant that they've made that. But then if that's where you really get a chance to understand that car, and actually on the roads it's a little bit held back, it's a little bit flawed, then what are you buying?
I think they give you that track time to try and demonstrate how good the car was as a package, because you wouldn't have got that complete feeling on the road because you're not going fast enough.
Totally that.
Yeah.
That's basically it. That's I think where it boiled down to is
that a nutshell?
Yeah, that's a nutshell, mate.
Yeah.
So to not completely steal the thunder from my video, I'm going to give the car like an 8.5 out of 10.
Fair. Well, that's good.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Personally, not my favourite Vantage ever, but very, very, very good.
I'd probably like that car. Or
I
not.
think you.
No.
I think you'd feel similar to me.
Okay.
I was trying to put myself in your head. I think it's very. You can't knock that it's not good, but I think you would be like, oh yeah, but I'll show you some footage on board in a bit. Anyway, let's move on. It's time for Stock Watch. We still haven't got our theme.
No.
Don't worry, I'm not going to sing it.
Oh, thank God.
It's time for Stock Watch. This week we have been sponsored by the legends at Portland Autos. And that's not a bad thing at all, because they have some outrageous stock.
They have got some lovely
And I'm not
cars,
saying that because they've sponsored us, because sometimes we do get these requests, don't we? Some people reach out and say, look, we love to sponsor a section, and we look at their cars, we're like, we wouldn't pick one of these cars. It would be super unauthentic. We're like, guys, this week we sponsored this really nice 530D. So
I've dealt with these guys as well, by the way.
Oh,
so
fair. Okay.
Proper outfit. I've done some business with them myself. So yeah, nice lads.
It's a truly authentic sponsorship deal, the ones that we like. Now, we've picked two very different cars here. It won't surprise anyone to see that I've selected their first edition F-Type V8R. Stunning car with the red leather interior. I actually think the red leather is pretty rare on these cars. Not a lot of people chose it, and Tony, before you say there's a reason why, but I think it's really good looking. 2022 car, 9,000 miles, 55 grand. These, I know more than most. These things took a bomb.
Yeah, it was a 90. That would have been 90 grand new or something. That car?
Easily, mate. I can't look at all the options here, but it looks like a fairly standard paint, but it's got a few other nice bits. That could have crept over 100 grand, this.
Wow.
It's got the aero kit on the back.
Half its value in 2 years. But don't forget, the first owner wouldn't have paid that money for it. He would have got a big discount, so don't feel so sorry for him. But even so, you've done a bit of money.
Well, and what a lot of car for that money. Because the thing is, obviously, the old shapes hover in this area. SVRs will be more than that. But people underestimate how good this final generation of F-Type was.
Not just that, by the way. When you talk about muted noise on modern cars, that isn't.
No, sounds great.
It sounds unbelievable.
All we have to do, as we know, is take the old...
dismantle it.
take the old fuse out and you'll be good to go. So this is the P450. So this is the one just below the full-blooded R, the 575, which I had. But still plenty this engine, and with a cheeky tune courtesy of someone like Litchfield, you'll be on your way.
More than enough power for the road,
mate. More than enough power.
Yeah.
It's a great car, so I had to stick that out. You've picked something that surprised me.
I picked something of similar value, but something that just caught my eye, So I picked a BMW i8 Roadster.
Unbelievable. So 2018, 20,000 miles, bang on the same money, 55 grand. Or
don't make them like that anymore, mate.
Well, will they ever? This was a weird car. Did you like this car?
Not really.
Really? You weren't a fan?
No. Listen, when it come out, it was a bit revolutionary, but they just never carried it on. But mate, look at the pictures of it.
It looks the bomb.
It still looks like a 100 grand car today.
Easily.
And that would have been over 100 grand. It would, would have been silly money.
Interior stunning.
That's a proper car for 55 grand.
Got CarPlay and all. The problem is it's a little slow. A little slow, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it goes back to the V8 R8 argument.
Yes.
But it's just it's got big doors that open up.
It looks wild.
You know, 55 grand. You pull up to
You're right.
It's
You
the
are
Range
right.
Rover thing, mate.
Yeah, people are going to assume you're in a much more expensive
They
car.
assume you got a few quid.
This one's highly spec'd, so it's looking vibey. You can take the roof off. It's not very practical, if I remember. It's not much boot space, but I guess who cares? It's a supercar.
Who cares?
Is it a supercar?
No.
No.
It's sports car.
It is a sports
But
car.
it's sports car money, 55 grand.
I do like that.
Yeah.
That's a good shout. Anyway, plenty of other outrageous cars in stock at Portland Orders, including a Purosangue, Ferrari Purosangue right up there, and they've got a Phantom drop top, or the drop head they call it, don't they? The convertible Phantom Rolls Royce, absolutely outrageous. Plenty of Euros, some other Porsches, loads of stuff. So if you want to go and check out Portland Auto stock, the two cars that Tony and I would be driving away at, that F-Type and that I-8, but plenty of other things. So thanks to them for sponsoring this part, or this week's Stock watch. Sorry, I had to go.
Just had to put it in, didn't
I
it?
couldn't help.
It literally makes me cringe, mate.
Oh, I know, it makes everyone cringe. We'll get there eventually with our AI generated song.
Yeah.
But look, speaking of engines, strange engines, Merc engines, we've got to touch on the news that Merc have now basically officially come out saying that they're going to be ditching the 4-pot hybrid.
Oh, they have actually officially come out now?
Well, where's the story? It's for the CLE. So AMG CLE63 switches 4-pot PHEV for 595 horsepower V8. AMG lines up twin-turbo V8 power for upcoming Super Coupe amid slow sales for 4-cylinder hybrid. So, they've confirmed. Senior officials at the division's Mercedes-Benz parent company have confirmed that they're going back to V8 rather than the disastrous 4-cylinder
What are they going to do with that, with all that money? I mean, I was a bit of an advocate, as in...
Advocate,
whatever it's
avocado.
called. Yeah. I was a bit of one of them.
Bit of an avocado,
for them really standing hard and sticking to their guns.
Yeah.
And keeping that engine in some capacity. I mean, surely as a manufacturer, they haven't wasted all that money. They're going to put it in something else, at least.
It will. It's gonna end up, as we've said, in cars that people don't necessarily care about. The GLC, the GLE, where it's not as important.
Yeah.
But for their sports cars, sports coupes, clearly they're going to have to change it up. And the thing is, we've seen the last 2 weeks, something is going on in the automotive industry, Tony, and it feels like a load of manufacturers, a load of makers have stood up and said, let's face the facts here, people. Things aren't going the way that we've been told they're going.
Uh-huh.
EVs are struggling.
Is this music to our ears?
Well,
Is this we told you so moment?
we're not quite there
No.
yet.
But we're close.
We're close. If you do a quick little Google, look at some car news, well, you're not going to go into it, but there are so many articles of manufacturers moving away from this kind of narrative of all electric. We're going electric, into we're bringing back an ICE. We're doing more ICE. We're delaying this. We're slowing this down. Even Matteo Rimac coming out saying we're not going to make a full EV supercar, again, moving forward. Bugatti revealing their new combustion engine Chiron successor. All of these kind of brands and manufacturers just slightly switching the narrative, and it's happening slowly. It's not a big FU to governments and the world saying this is not what's going to happen, but there is definitely a bubbling narrative of things aren't going quite right here.
And this is, by the way, the manufacturer saying, we really, really, really want to try and follow your instructions, but also we need to make money.
Yeah.
We've got huge shareholders, that. We have to report this every year, and no one buys EVs, and everyone's still buying combustion cars. So, unfortunately, Mr. Governments, we have to keep buying. We have to keep making combustion cars, because that's what it's all about, mate. And whether we had an insight or whether we knew what was going on, that's common sense.
Yeah, and I think, there was a lot of conversation in my group at the weekend around the historic Grand Prix, because obviously everyone there is an enthusiast for motor racing, for old school cars. There's lots of conversations about synthetic fuels, which obviously are being used heavily now in vintage racing and things like that. And there was a lot of chat about what is the future? What does this event look like in 20 or 30 years? And a lot of people were keen to point out, well, look, a year ago, I think it would have been a bit sketchy, but but genuinely over the last 2 weeks, and we had some proper journalists there, from GQ, from Top Gear, from national publications, all saying like there's something going on. There's a shift. Alpine just launched that hydrogen supercar, the Alpenflow, whatever it is, 335 horsepower hydrogen combustion engine. So I think it's getting a run out at Le Mans on a bit of a demo lap. I think the hydrogen powered Ineos Grenadier just had a few test runs that's been knocking around. So there's just more of this open conversation of, look, clearly, yes, we've got EV to a good point. We've got the products to a good point where this is where they can work. This is where they can operate. But it is clearly not working for the masses.
Yeah.
At this point, it's not working for the masses. We're getting a lot of pushback. And as you say, we need to make money. So whilst we continue to bring people up to speed on EVs, we've got to figure out a way to keep selling cars. Because otherwise, mate...
They'll have no manufacturers left.
We literally won't. They'll all go bankrupt.
They'll all go bankrupt. You're absolutely right. Yeah, because they've got fields and fields of cars that they're literally selling for nothing. They're all making big losses on them all the time. And as well... This is not the petrol heads that have made this decision. This is the mass, mate, because it's not us, you and I, the guys at that event at the weekend. They're a real tiny percentage of the buying market in general. I'm talking in general now. It's the mass that's made this decision, and the manufacturers have to follow the mass. Yeah. If everyone had gone out and bought electric cars, that's what they'd still be making now. But they're just not. Yeah. It's not happening. So
it's taking time. It's taking too much time. And that's exactly it. They need to keep, because don't forget as well, manufacturers are 5 years ahead of us in terms of the products that they're developing and building. So potentially they're looking down the road going, well, hold on a sec, in 5 years' time, the cars that are going to come out are X, Y, and Z ways further forward than these cars. But the market is 10 years behind where we need them to be. Yeah. So are we actually going to create that? Anyway, so they're cleverer than we are, but it's been very interesting to see over the last couple of weeks this switch in narrative slightly, and these questions that are being asked and these changes that are being made. So
we told you so.
Tony's been saying this for months. Sorry, I've got a really bad cough.
Sam told me this 4 years ago.
Well, we did also break this V8 story about 2.5 years ago as well. We said they're going to put a V8 back in, and everyone went, "Don't be stupid."
Well, I was one of them people that said, "Don't be stupid" as well. So
I know you did.
Humble pie.
Anyway, we'll watch this space. What did I want? I wanted to mention something to everybody. Thank you for all of those that fed back about Smith and Sniff doing a very similar thing to our Goodwood concept. How often do you do this? Do you ever do that where you go, I've got a genius business idea,
and then
I'm going to start doing an app where you can go on and find all the fast food restaurants in your local area and order it, and it'll just get delivered to your door. And then you tell someone, they go, what, Deliveroo? And you go, oh, damn.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently that's what we did. We got all carried away and excited about something that Smith and Sniff did a year or 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
But that's fine. We can still do it. Yeah, thank you everyone for letting us know that happened. But watch this space.
We'll be in touch, Sniff and Sniff. Yeah. We need some help.
We're still working on it, but we might get some advice from old Johnny. And there was something else that I needed to update everyone on. Live shows likely to happen the second half of this year.
They're coming back?
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of questions about what's happening with the live events. Obviously, we're making a lot of noise about tours. More information on that coming soon. But live events, stay tuned. That's likely to be second half of this year for our live podcast shows.
That's all we can tell them.
That's all we can tell them.
But
so it's a bit of a weak announcement.
Just in case I blurted something out that I shouldn't.
I think that's it. I think that's an episode, isn't it?
How long was it?
About an hour.
Was it?
Yeah, mate. Look at us just flying through the chat. So, reminder, main channel video on the Vantage coming this Sunday. Please go and give it a watch. Let us know your thoughts. And we'll be back with you for another episode next week. So, in the meantime, if you want to follow Tony, he's on most social media platforms as at Tony Gravelwood Car Sales. I'm on most social media platforms as at Seen Through Glass. You can follow this podcast at Behind the Glass __podcast. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.